Begin today the Gemara on Daf Chafei at the Mishnah towards the top of the Yamud. This Mishnah continues the halachas regarding Shevuos. Shevuos is bitui. When one makes a Shevuos, he utters and says something which is not true. The details of when a person would be chayav to bring a carbon. Zok the Mishnah echad dvarim shel atzmai. Whether a person makes a Shevuos, which is an action that relates to himself, which is the example the pasuk talks about lahara, lahetiv, regarding himself. And ve'echad dvarim shel acherim, or he says a shvuah that relates to someone else, as the Mishnah will give the example right here in a second. And also ve'echad dvarim sheyesh be'em mamish, whether this is something which is relating to something tangible. Ve'echad dvarim she'ein be'em mamish, or the shvuah is about an action or something it's not tangible at all, or something that the person has no benefit from, as we'll see, the Mishnah will explain here. So Ketzad, what are all these details that the Mishnah just mentioned here? When it says that it's a dvarim shel acherim, it means a person makes a shvuah that I'll give something to someone. So it's not just a shvuah about himself, but it's a shvuah about giving to someone else. Or v'shelo yatem, I will not give him. Or shenesati, makes a shvuah in the past, regarding the past, that I already gave him something. V'shelo nesati, I did not give him. So these are also included in the chiyuv of a shvuah sheker to be chayav a carbon. Now, what's the case of something which is ein boy mamish sheishan v'shelo yishan? A person makes a shvuah, I will sleep or I will not sleep. That's not something tangible. It's just a shvuah about sleep or not. So this shvuah takes effect. Sheyishanti v'shelo yishanti, or he makes a shvuah about the past that I did sleep or I did not sleep. Or another example of a shvuah she'ein bo mamish, as I mentioned, is a shvuah that a person is saying something which is tangible, but there's no hana to this. She'ezreik tzror liyam, he makes a shvuah that he will throw this pebble into the sea. So the pebble, throwing it, something tangible, but there's no benefit to this. So it's not the simple pshat of the pasuk where it says lahara ilahetiv. Or he says v'shelo yazreik, I will not throw it. Shezarakti, I did throw it in the past. V'shelo zarakti, I did not throw it in the past. Now, Rabbi Shmuel says, "Eine chayev ala asad lavai." One is not chayev for shvuas sheker unless his shvuah is for the future. That he makes a shvuah about something that he will do or not do in the future, and he doesn't keep that shvuah. Shanema, because that's what the pasuk says. Lahara oileitiv, to do about a shvuah that's something that is bad for him, like not to eat, or laheitiv, something that's good for him, like to eat. But if he makes a shvuah about the past, I ate, I did not eat in the past. If that's a lie, there's no chiyuv carbon for that. Amalei Rabbi Akiva, so Rabbi Akiva asks him, in Cain, if this is the case, that you're learning the pasuk literally, so einli elad dvarim sheyesh behem hara v'atava. So then you should say that the chiyuv of a carbon for a shvuah is only such a thing that there's something that's actually either bad or good for him. Dvarim she'ein behem hara v'atava minayin. To include a chiyuv carbon for a shvuah where it's not something bad for him, it's not something good for him. Like the example mentioned before, I will throw this pebble into the sea, I will not. It's not harav atov minayin. So how do you know that he's chayiv? Because on that, Rabbi Shmuel didn't argue. As long as it's something future tense, then the person will be chayiv. Amaloi, so Rabbi Shmuel answers, miribu yakosov. Because in the pasuk, after it says, when it says there, lahara elehetiv, it also says l'chol asher yevate, whatever the person will utter. So that l'chol asher yevate is coming to say, even if it's not just lahara elahetiv. So Amaloi, so Rabbi Akiva answers him and says, im riba hakasiv lekach. If after it says lahara elahetiv, it adds l'chol asher yevate adam, is that to include even this kind of a shvuah that is not good or bad. So then riba hakasiv lekach. We can learn from the pasuk also that it includes even a shvuah regarding something that he says he did or did not do in the past. Okay, the Gemara will explain the machlokes between Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Akiva on Daf Chavav.
What's Rabbi Akiva saying? That you be marbe more than one thing?
Yeah, it's marbe only also a shvuah for the past. Yeah, we'll see. The Gemara will explain.
No, just the concept that a riba could be.
No. The Gemara will explain a klal prata klal. We'll see in the Mitzvah of the Gemara Chavav. So the Gemara Tanarabana and Abraisa we learned Chayme ben Nedarim b'Shvuos. There's a stringency in a vow that you don't have regarding an oath, and also Chayme b'Shvuos mi ben Nedarim. There's a stringency in an oath that's more than a vow. So what's the difference between them? There's a stringency regarding a vow. When a person makes a neder, it takes effect in relation to an object of a mitzvah, just like regarding something that's voluntary. If a person makes a neder and says that this sukkah should be aser, or this lulav should be aser, it becomes aser. The Gemara in Nedarim learns out from the pasuk that there's one kind of issur that takes effect, and there's an issur that does not take effect. And the Gemara says it's logical to say that a shvuah, where the person is asking on himself, that's the concept of a shvuah, on the person, that I will not do this and this, it can't take effect on a mitzvah, because you have the obligation to do the mitzvah. But by a neder, where you're making the neder not on yourself, you're just saying that this object is asr, and then memela you can't have any benefit from it. So then even regarding an object of a mitzvah, it takes effect, and then you can't have enough from it. So that's a stringency by a neder.
So neder is on the chayfetz and
on the
chayfetz
chefza. Correct, and this is on the gavra.
You can't make it myself. It doesn't work. Why?
No, well, a person there has to be a chefza that it takes effect on. Yeah.
He says it on an esrog, so now he can't do the mitzvah.
Correct. Yes, the Gemara learns out from a pasuk, and it says that pasuk that you see that that a issa could take effect even on a mitzvah, it's mistaver that it goes on a neder, which is going on the chefza, not on the person.
You didn't learn something that Torah you cannot take away something like that.
No. By a neder it takes effect. By Shevuos it doesn't. Shevuos is on the person, the action that he has to do, that he can't prevent himself, he can't answer himself from doing. Masha'en kem b'Shevuos, by a Shevuah, it will not take effect. A Shevuah on a mitzvah. Chayme b'Shevuos, on the other hand, there's a stringency regarding a Shevuah. When a person makes a Shevuah, it takes effect on something which is not tangible at all. Just like something which is tangible. And it's based on the same concept, because what is a Shevuah? The Shevuah is on the person that I will do this action, I will not do this action, or like the example the Mishnah said, I will sleep, I will not sleep. It doesn't have to be something tangible. It's on the person, whether it's tangible or not. By contrast, by a neder, the idea of a neder is there's a chatza, there's an existence of something that the person is asering, like a carbon. He's saying, kainam, that this should be aser like a carbon. So there has to be something that he's asering. But just to speak about an action I will or will not do, that's not what a neder is. There is an example, though, that a person can make a neder regarding sleep or not sleeping. If a person says, for example, that I'm asering my eye of closing to sleep. So then he put the neder on a chefza, on his eyes, that he will not close his eyes to sleep. But stam to say a neder that I will not sleep, that's not what a neder is. It has to be on a chefza. Okay, the Mishnah said, an example of a shvuah that a person is saying something not just for himself, but in relation to what he's going to do for someone else. So that's I will give him, I will not give him. Says the Gemara, what does the Mishnah mean by this example? I will give. Is he saying that I'm going to give tzedakah for this poor individual, but for this a shvuah doesn't take effect? It's already a mitzvah. And he's a shvuah from Har Sinai that he has to give tzedakah to this poor person. Shenema nosin titin. Elo, says the Gemara, matan el asher. It's not talking about the mitzvah of tzedakah. It's about a person that doesn't need tzedakah. He's rich, and he's just saying, I will give this person a gift. I will not give him a gift. And there the shvuah takes effect. And the Mishnah said a case of a shvuah that's considered to be ein by mamish because there's nothing tangible. It's just an action. Sheishan v'shaloi ishan. I will sleep. I will not sleep. So the Gemara asks, how does such a shvuah take effect? Any, is this true that a person can make a shvuah that I will not sleep? Now the Gemara understands that when he says shaloi ishan, he didn't give any time limit. That means he's making a shvuah that I will never sleep. Never sleep? How could that be? A person that makes a shvuah that I will not sleep for 3 days, so he gets malchus for making this shvuah because this is a shvuah shav. This is a shvuah about something that's impossible. Shvuah shav is like a person that says a man is a woman or something that's impossible to be. It's not, everyone knows it's impossible. So shvuah not to sleep for 3 days is also impossible. So how could this shvuah take effect? And says the Gemara, Hasam da'ama gimel. Over there, the person said specifically, I'm not going to sleep for 3 days. So that's a Shevuos Shav, he gets Malchus right away. Over here, he did not say 3 days. He just said, I'm not going to sleep. So the way we understand what he meant to say, I'm not going to sleep, it doesn't mean I'm not going to sleep for that length of time that it's impossible. I'm not going to sleep for a day, for 2 days, when it's possible not to sleep. Or according to some Rishonim, what the Gemara is saying is that he has to specify and say, Shaloi Ishon, that I'm not going to sleep today. But if he only said simply, I'm not going to sleep, then it means he's not going to sleep forever, and he will get malchus for that right away. Then the Mishnah said, She'ezroik tzror liyam, v'shaloi ezroik, an example of shvur she'en by mamish, and this is a shvur where the person has no hana, that I will throw this pebble into the water or not. So that's also a shvur that takes effect. So the Gemara brings a machlokes between Rav and Shmuel in a similar case. Itmar, we learned the following machlokes: Shevuos shezorak play nitzrei liyam. A person makes a shvuah not about himself and not about the future; it's about the past. He says, "I make a shvuah that so and so already in the past threw this pebble into the sea, v'shaloi zorak, or that so and so did not throw it there." So is this a shvuah that you chayiv a carbon for? Rav Omar chayiv. Rav says this is Yechayev a carbon, as well as we'll see in the continuation of the Gemara. Chayev here specifically means regarding a carbon, if this was b'shreigig. Shmuel Omar potter. But Shmuel says for such a kind of shvuah, he's potter. What's the reason for this? So the Gemara explains. Rav Omar chayev isei belav vehein. Rav says for such a kind of shvuah, the person is chayev because the condition to be chayev in a shvuah that you can see from the language of the pasuk, where it says lahara or lahetiv, that it's either for the negative or for the positive. Any shvuah, in order for it to take effect, to be chayev, it has to be a shvuah that it's possible to say this kind of shvuah in the negative or in the positive. So over here as well, when the person says a shvuah about the past that so and so threw a pebble into the water, you could say that so and so threw it, or you could say he did not throw it. So as long as it could be belav vehein, similar to what it says in the pasuk lahara lahetiv, the shvuah could take effect. Shmuel alama pater. However, Shmuel says that you're pater because let's say belahaba. Another condition for a shvuah to take effect is it has to be a shvuah that could be said regarding the past and a shvuah that could be said regarding the future. But this kind of shvuah, where a person is saying not about himself, he's saying my friend did throw this pebble in the past into the water. He can't make such a shvuah regarding the future. The person can't make a shvuah, I swear that my friend in the future will throw this pebble into the water. It's not in your control, b'chlal. So in order for a shvuah to take effect, since we darshan from the pasuk that a shvuah works for la'avar and for lahaba, from that it's understood that which shvuah takes effect, only a shvuah that could be made regarding the past and regarding the future. So this shvuah, you're not going to be chayav a carbon for it. Says the Gemara, Leime beplukte de Rabbi Shmuel v'Rabbi Akiva kamiflagi. Shall we say that the argument of Rav and Shmuel is the same machlokes as Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Akiva in our Mishnah? The Tanan, it said in the Mishnah, Bechlal, a machlokes regarding if a person makes a shvuah regarding the past, whether you chayiv for this Bechlal. Because Rabbi Shmuel says, Ein chayiv ela ala asad lavai. One is only chayiv a carbon for a shvuah that's false if it's a shvuah regarding the future. Shanem ala haray lahetiv. In the pasuk it says only regarding the future, or whether for bad or good, but only the future. So Rabbi Akiva asks him, if you're learning the pasuk literally, so it should be only cases where there's something good or bad for you. From where do I know that one is chayiv for a shvuah where there's nothing good or bad for him? It's something that's neutral, like throwing a pebble into the water. And Rabbi Shmuel answered, from that we learn from a pasuk where it says Amalai Rabbi Akiva said, "Im riba kasav lekach." If there's a ribui for the point that it doesn't have to be something good or bad, there's also a ribui that you chayiv for a shvuah for the past. So here in the Mishnah, this is the machlokes of whether a person is chayiv also for l'sha'avar, for the past or only for the future. So now the Gemara wants to say the pshat and the machlokes of Rav and Shmuel is the same machlokes of Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Akiva, and this is a little bit different than what the Gemara explained before. The Gemara says, Rav, Rabbi Akiva. Rav holds like Rabbi Akiva that a shvuah that you chayiv for is for the future, for the past. So therefore, in this case, when the person makes a shvuah about his friend, and he says, my friend in the past threw this pebble into the water. So you chayiv for that, because he's following Rabbi Akiva, that you chayiv for a shvuah for the past. Or Shmuel, the Amar Rabbi Shmuel, and Shmuel that says for that kind of shvuah you're not chayev is because he holds like Rabbi Shmuel that for any shvuah that you make regarding the past, you're not chayev a carbon. It's only for the future. So this is, as I mentioned, different a little bit than the pshat that the Gemara said before. The pshat the Gemara said before was not the actual words of Rav and Shmuel themselves. It's the pshat the Gemara said to explain their machlokes. Here, the Gemara is suggesting to say that the machlokes of Rav and Shmuel is b'chlal. Could a person make a shvuah about the past and be chayiv on that a carbon? And Shmuel holds that any shvuah for the past, one is not chayiv a carbon. So it's really not only when it's about your friend, it's about yourself also. That's what Taisa says over here, that this is a little bit of a new pshat the Gemara is suggesting now. So the Gemara explains that no, you don't have to say this, and it basically goes back to the previous pshat. Ali b'de Rabbi Shmuel. According to Rabbi Shmuel's opinion, kula milei pligi. There's no argument here between Rav and Shmuel based on Rabbi Shmuel's opinion, because Rabbi Shmuel's opinion is clear. Rabbi Shmuel holds you're never chayev for a shvuah when you're speaking about the past, even if it's a case that shvuah could be made about the future as well. But the Torah is only mechayev for the future, never for the past. So again, Rabbi Shmuel is not mechayev if you make the shvuah about the past. So now, milse de lese b'lahaba, this case that Rav and Shmuel are arguing about when a person is making a shvuah regarding his friend, that his friend threw this pebble into the water, and this is not a shvuah that is even possible to make about the future. You can't swear that your friend will throw this pebble into the water. Miboye, needless to say, that Rabbi Shmuel in such a case would hold that the shvuah does not take effect. So Rav and Shmuel wouldn't argue according to Rabbi Shmuel. Definitely, everybody would agree that according to Rabbi Shmuel, there's no chiyuv in this case. Ki pligi, the argument of Rav and Shmuel is aliba de Rabbi Akiva. According to Rabbi Akiva, that says that a shvuah that you're chayev for is both for the future and for the past. So Rav ke Rabbi Akiva. Rav that says that in this case the person swore about the past that my friend threw this pebble into the water. That's like Rabbi Akiva that says you're chayev even for a shvuah in the past. Shmuel Amar, but Shmuel argues according to Rabbi Akiva and says, kind of like Mechayev Rabbi Akiva Hasam l'sha'avar. When does Rabbi Akiva say that you chayev for a shvuah that you make regarding the past? If it's something that you can say that same kind of shvuah for the future as well. So then, Mechayev Rabbi Akiva l'sha'avar. Then Rabbi Akiva would say that if you made that shvuah regarding the past, you would be chayev. So this is all regarding a person himself. If he's speaking about himself and he's saying, I threw this pebble into the water in the past, he can make that same shvuah for the future. I will throw it. Then Rabbi Akiva is mechayev. But if a person is making a shvuah not about himself, but about his friend that threw this pebble into the water, he can't make that shvuah for the future, that he will throw it. In that case, Shmuel is saying Rabbi Akiva would not be mechayev. Okay, the Gemara suggests now maybe we could say another explanation for the machlokes of Rav and Shmuel. Leime, shall we say that this machlokes of Rav and Shmuel beplukte Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseire v'Rabbana kamiflagi, that when they're arguing here about this shvuah, whether there's this condition that every shvuah you make about the past there has to be a shvuah that could be made for the future as well, only then Yechayev, they're arguing the machlokes of Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseire and the Rabbanan. So as we'll see here, Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseire and Rabbanan argue on the klal that we said before, that a shvuah that you make to be chayev has to be hein v'lav, has to be a shvuah that you can make for the positive and for the negative. That klal itself is what the machlokes of Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseire and the Rabbanan is about. And the Gemara wants to compare and say that Rav and Shmuel that are arguing about whether the shvuah has to be something that could be for the past and for the future is based on the machlokes whether it has to be belav v'hein. Does it have to be something that's for the negative and for the positive? So what's this machlokes? The Tanan, the Mishnah later says here in the Perek, Nishba levatel is a mitzvah. A person swears that he's going to be mevatel, he's not going to do a mitzvah. V'loy bittul, and he did not, wasn't mevatel the mitzvah. He fulfilled the mitzvah. So pater, he's pater from the shvuah, does not take effect. L'kayim is a mitzvah. If a person swears that I'm going to fulfill the mitzvah, v'loiki, he did not do the mitzvah. Pater, he's going to be pater, the shvuah does not take effect on this either. Why not? Shahaya bedin, so the Chachamim here, and this Braisa explained that you would think to say, Sheyehe chayev kedivrei Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseire, that you would be chayev for breaking the shvuah when you swear to fulfill the mitzvah. What did Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseire say? Because the Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseire, Uma emerashus she'ein mushpal mahar Sinai. If a person makes a shvuah regarding something which he does not have, the shvuah, it's voluntary. He doesn't have to fulfill this as a mitzvah. Hareyu chayev aleh. If he swears that he's going to do this, he must do it, and if not, he's chayev a carbon. Mitzvah shemushpa aleh mahar Sinai. So a mitzvah that a person has already, this the shvuah, and he's obligated from Har Sinai to fulfill. So over here, if a person swears that he'll fulfill this mitzvah that he's obligated to fulfill, so you would say even more so that the shvuah should take effect and he should be chayev for this. That's what Rabbi Yehuda ben Beseire said. No, but on this though, the Chachamim answer back and say, Omru loi, that we don't. This is not the case. But loi, you can't compare a shvuah that's on something which is voluntary to a shvuah that a person makes regarding a mitzvah. Because the reason why, when a person makes a shvuah regarding something which is voluntary, then it takes effect because she became also lav kehain. Because this is something where the shvuah could be made in the positive, that I will do this act, or for the negative, that I will not do it because it's something voluntary. Taima b'shvuas mitzvah. However, a shvua regarding a mitzvah, shekein leyasa balav kehein. This is not a shvua that the person can make in the negative like he could in the positive. He could say a shvua that I will fulfill the mitzvah, but to be mevatel the mitzvah, that everybody agrees does not take effect, like the first case in this Mishnah. There no one argues. So here's where Chachamim say the rule that just like the pasuk says, lohara lehetiv, every shvua to be chayav a carbon, it has to be a shvua that could be made for the positive or for the negative. Lav and Hain. Rabbi Yehuda ben Meseida disagrees with this whole klal. Rabbi Yehuda ben Meseida says that Yechayev for a shvur that could be made only in the positive, even if it cannot be made in the negative. So now the Gemara says.
Some say that if you make a shvur and Yechayev of a mitzvah, and you didn't keep the mitzvah, so you have two one for not keeping the mitzvah.
That's right. Rabbi Yehuda ben Meseida. Yeah, Rabbi Yehuda ben Meseida says that yes, there's two things. Correct, because the shvur takes effect. And on that, the Chachamim say that he didn't do the mitzvah, so then he's chayav for that, but not for the shvur. The shvur does not take effect because it's not lav and hein. Yeah. So now the Gemara suggests based on this, name shall we say Rav the Omek Rabbi Yehuda ben Meseida. Rav that comes and says that there's a similar condition, that the shvua has to be such a kind of shvua that could be made for the future and for the Rav is the one that says that the shvua is made even if it's only for the past, and it cannot be made for the future, like the case when a person swears that his friend threw a pebble into the water. So the shvua, according to Rav, takes effect. Why is that? Because Rabbi Yehuda ben Meseida, he follows the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda ben Meseida. Just like Rabbi Yehuda ben Meseida says that there's no condition of hein and lav, that a shvua that it has to have the potential of being in the positive and the negative, so too there's no condition that it has to be a shvua that it could be potentially for the past and for the future. Sorry. Shmuel the Amar Kerabanan, and Shmuel that says that the shvua has to be something that could be potentially for the future, just like for the past. So too, he's learning it from the Rabbanan. Just like the Rabbanan say that it has to be hein v'lav, so too regarding Sha'avar and Lahaba. That's the source of Shmuel. So the Gemara says,
You can't make a shvur on a mitzvah.
yeah. Could you can that's a machlokes here. No, that's a machlokes of the Chachamim and Rabbi Yehuda ben Meseida to fulfill the mitzvah. We're not talking about being mevatel the mitzvah, to fulfill the mitzvah.
And that's only one way you could.
Yeah, correct. And that's the machlokes. If you could only make it one way, if it works or not.
How can you even do that? Okay.
So the Gemara says that no, this is not. These two things are not dependent one on the other. And the Gemara now explains already the pshat that we said before in the beginning. It says the Gemara Aliba de Rabbi Yehuda ben Meseida Kulal Malay Pligi. Rabbi Yehuda ben Meseida that says that a shvua takes effect even if you could only make it with a hein and not with a lav, only in the positive and not in the negative. According to his opinion, nobody would argue. It's clear what he holds because hashta lav a hein loy boy. If Rabbi Yehuda ben Meseida says a shvua takes effect if it could only be made in the positive, not in the negative, la'abav l'shava boy, he would require that there should be a shvua that could be made in the past and for the future. And as Gemara is going to explain in a second, the reason why it's obvious because the lahara and lahetiv, which is the hein and lav, that's mefurish in the pasuk. So there, it's mistavet that you would require this condition that it should be a shvua of hein and lav. And still Rabbi Yehuda ben Meseida says no. It's separate. You can make a shvua that's only lahara or only lahetiv. It doesn't have to be both. L'sha'avar and lahaba is not mefurish in the pasuk. It's a drasha that a shvua could be made also l'sha'avar. It doesn't say it in the pasuk. So for sure, he wouldn't require this condition that a shvua has to be of such a kind of shvua that could be made for the past and the future. So according to him, it's clear. There's no argument about this. However, ki pligi aliba de rabbanon. The argument is according to the rabbanon that require the condition that it can be made hein v'lav. So the question is whether there's another condition as well of l'sha'avar and lahaba. Shmuel k'Rabbanan. So Shmuel follow the opinion of the Rabbanan, and therefore the Shmuel says when you see the different kinds of shvuos, it means that every individual shvua has to be potentially to be made in all these kinds of shvuos, whether hein and lav, like it says clearly in the pasuk, lahara la'etiv, or l'sha'avar and lahaba as well. So that's like the Rabbanon. And Rav will tell you, Ki lo b'chai v'Rabbanon b'la v'hein. When did the Rabbanon say that you will not be chayav for shvua if it cannot be made in both ways? That's regarding lav and hein, because that's clear in the pasuk. D'chsiv lahara oy laheitiv. The hedya. So it says it clearly, so it has to be of this kind of shvua. Aval lahaba v'l'sha'avar. But a shvua that's made for the future or for the past, the miribu de kroy also. That's something that doesn't say clearly in the pasuk. It's just a riboy, as we'll see in Naf Chavav, that it's learned from a riboy. So therefore, Mechayvi, he'll be chayiv, even if it cannot be made for the future. And like in this case, that they're talking about a person that swears that his friend threw in the past a pebble into the water. Okay, so the Gemara now asks on Shmuel's opinion. Masav Rav Amnuneh. There's a Mishnah later here that says, person made a shvuah loy achalti hayayim. A shvuah that I did not eat today on the past, or a shvuah v'lo yenachti tefillin hayayim. Or first, the person says, I did not eat today, I did not put on tefillin today. So a friend of his comes along and says, mashbiyachani, I'm having you take an oath on this, so that you just said. And v'omar amen, he responds amen, accepting this shvuah. Chayiv will be chayiv for both of these shvuahs, whether about not eating today or not putting on tefillin today, regarding the past. So now, what do we see from here? So the Gemara says, "Bishleim lo yachalti." In the case where a person made a shvuah that he did not eat today, so isay b'lo yachal. This is a case of a shvuah that you can make the same shvuah in the past and also for the future, that I will not eat today. Elo, however, lo yinachti. If the person makes a shvuah that I did not put on tefillin today, mi isay b'lo aniach. Is this a kind of shvuah that a person could also make for the future, that I will not put on tefillin today? This is exactly the case that we brought before of the Mishnah. Nishba levatel a mitzvah. A person that swears that he's not going to fulfill a mitzvah, everybody agrees that that shvuah does not take effect. So you see here a clear Mishnah that a shvuah which could be made only for the past and not for the future will take effect, and he's chayiv for this. This is a question on Shmuel. So the Gemara says, "Who meisev la, v'hu mefarik la." Rav Amnuneh, he asked this question and he gave the answer. Litzdadin katani. The two cases of this Mishnah are not focusing on the same chiyuv. Each one is a different side, a different chiyuv. Lo yachalti, when he makes a shvuah that I did not eat today regarding the past, which is a shvuah that you can make for the future as well. So that qualifies lekarban, to be chayav a carbon. When it says in the pasuk laharai lehetiv, in that pasuk it's speaking about a carbon, so it has to be something that could be for the past, like for the future. Lahi nachti, but a person that makes a shvuah that I did not put on tefillin today, and it says that it'll be chayiv for this, even though he cannot make the shvuah for the fuher, la malchus. Over here, the chiyuv is not for a carbon. The chiyuv is only for malchus, because this is a shvuah shav. It's a shvuah that he has a mitzvah to put on tefillin, and he's saying he's not going to put on tefillin. He can't not put on tefillin. So therefore, it's like a shvuah shav, where a person swears about something that can't be. Masiv Rav asked another shaila, also in the Mishnah later here, it says, Ezi hi shvuas shav. What's considered to be a shvuah which is in vain? Right? Not a shvuah that's a lie, but the shvuah right from the beginning, as soon as he says it, everybody knows that it's a lie, and therefore it's chayiv malchus. Nishba l'shanes is a yedua la'adam. He swears about something that is known for everybody, that this is not what he said. So the example is, he says, Al omid shel even, on this pillar, pillar that's made from stone, Shahu b'makom plani, that's in that location, Shahu shel zahav. It's gold. So that's a shvuah that is in vain. So you chayiv on this right away, malchus. Now the Ula explains regarding this that v'hu shenikar legimel b'nei yadam. This has to be something that there's 3 people that know about this pillar of stone, that people can see that it's stone, and he swears that it's gold. But if it's something that 3 people don't know, that's something that's private, like the example, lo yachalti, I did not eat, nobody knows whether he did or did not eat, that's not called a shvuah in vain. It's because here the person is trying to make a point, he's trying to prove something, but it turns out it's a lie. But that's not a shvuah in vain. So now what do we see from that Mishnah? Time the nicker. The reason why the person is chayiv malchus for this is because this is something that is known. Everybody knows that this is a lie. So it's mashma from there. But if it would be a shvuah about something that people don't know about this, then oive mishom shvuas bitoy. So then he doesn't get malchus for it being a shvuas shav, a shvuah in vain. It falls into a different category. The category of shvuas bitoy, when a person utters something that's not true, that you chayiv for this a carbon. For shvuas shav, there is no carbon. For a shvuah shav, a person is chayiv malchus for making a shvuah in vain. For a shvuah is bitui, where a person says a lie about something for the future that he doesn't keep, or about something private that he's trying to make a point about, and he's lying about this. For that, a person is chayiv a carbon. So it's mashma that in a case where it's not nicker, he's not chayiv shvuah shav, but it will be a shvuah bitui. But why would he be chayiv? Ho'enoi b'yehei shel zav. But according to the rule that Shmuel says, you only chayav a carbon for a shvuah that you could make it for the past, or you can make it regarding the future. Over here, if a person says about something that looks to be stone, and he says that this is gold, and it's not something that people recognize, that at least 3 people know. So this is not a kind of shvuah if he's making this about the past, which is a lie. It's not a shvuah that he could say regarding a future. You can't say the same shvuah. This should be gold. You can't change it. It's not in his hands. And still, it's mashma from this Mishnah that he would be chayav for a shvuah's bitoi. So the Gemara answers, who meisav law, who mefarik law. Rava asked this question and he gave the answer, similar answer to what the Gemara said before. Niker, if it's a case that everybody knows that the shvuah is in vain, so there he gets malchus for this, for being a shvuah shav. Loi niker, if it's a shvuah that not people don't know about this, he's over on the lav a shvuah sheker to get malchus, but not for a carbon. Because according to Shmuel, the pasuk lahare lahetiv yidarshan also regarding past and future as well, and it has to be chayav a carbon, has to be a shvuah that's shaykh to go in the future as well. So the Gemara Amar Abaya said, Umayde Rav that says that the shvuah has to be only something which is hein and lav, but not a shvuah that could be l'sha'avat and lahaba. But Rav also will be made there regarding hein and lav, and therefore ba'emel lachaveirei, a person that says to his friend, shvuah sha'ani yedeya l'cha edus, I swear that I know this, that I can testify for you. Ve'ishtakach d'lo yoda. Then it turns out that he does not know this edus to testify. The potter. That in such a case will be potter because hoyel v'lesei b'chlal she'eni yidei elocha edus. Because this is a case that it's not a shvuah that could be made in the negative that I do not know this edus. Why not? Why can't a person make a shvuah that I do not know this edus? So the truth is it could. But what the Gemara is saying over here is, as we'll see later in the Masechta, there's another category of a shvuah, which is shvuah se'edus. A person that knows testimony has an obligation to say that testimony. And if he swears falsely that he does not know this testimony, he's chayav a carbon for this. But that's a separate category, not connected to the category of shvuah's bitui. Okay? So when a person makes a shvuah that I do know edus for you, which is the hein, to say that same shvuah in the lav, in the negative, that I do not know this shvuah for you, when he makes that shvuah in the lav, it's not in the category of shvuah's bitui. That's in a different category of shvuah's edus. And therefore, this shvuah of shvuah's bitui cannot be made in the positive and in the negative. So therefore, he's not going to be chayiv. Now, yadaiti, v'lo yadaiti, similar, if a person makes a shvuah that I once knew edus for you regarding something that's not relevant anymore. He's telling him once regarding something that happened, I knew edus for you, or v'lo yadaiti, I did not know edus for you. So machlokes, this case will actually be the same as the machlokes between Rav and Shmuel before, whether to be chayev does it have to be a kind of shvuah that could be made regarding the future as well. Because over here, when a person says yadaiti v'lo yadaiti, this is not a kind of shvuah that a person can say for the future. A person can't make a shvuah and say, I will know edus for you. How do you know? It's in your control to know whether you're going to be there to know edus. So according to Rav, in such a case, you're chayiv, and according to Shmuel, as we said before, if you can't make the shvuah for the future, you'll be potter. Or another case where it's also the machlokes of Rav and Shmuel, he'adati v'lo ha'adati. A person makes a shvuah that I did say edus for you, v'lo ha'adati. I did not say edus for you. So in such a case, it also cannot be made for the future. And the reason is because, as Rashi here says, if a person makes a shvuah that for the future, that I will say edus for you, so that's a mitzvah. There's a mitzvah to say edus. If he knows edus, he must say edus. So the shvuah does not take effect on that. Or if a person makes the shvuah that he will not say edus, even when he knows the edus, so then he's nishbal avatlas a mitzvah. So then the shvuah will not take effect. Okay, it's not b'lahaba in the case when the person says he will not say edus. So that's what I mean. And only then he's mevatlas a mitzvah. So then it's not going to be a shvuah lahaba. So this is also the machlokes of Rav and Shmuel, whether this shvuah that he makes regarding the past will it take effect, since it's not a kind of shvuah that you can make for the future. Okay, now the Gemara will address a more basic question based on what we just saw here. If there's a shvuah called shvuah's bitui, which means a person that makes a shvuah regarding something that he says, regarding the past, that a person says that I ate, I did not eat, and it's not true. So that's a Shevuos bitui, that a person's chayav a Shevuah for a carbon for, right? So why do you have to have another pasuk in the Torah that is machadish this concept called Shevuos Eidos? That if a person makes a Shevuah that I don't know this Eidos for you, that'll be chayav a carbon, and there's a whole different parasha called Shevuos Eidos. It should be included in this parsha of Shevuos Bitui. It's seemingly it's just another example of Shevuos Bitui. So the Gemara says, Bishloim Shmuel. According to Shmuel, it's understood. The Omar Shmuel says, Milsa de lese b'lahaba. Anything where the Shevuah that you're making cannot be made for the future. So loy mechayev alei l'sha'avar. So then, even if you make the Shevuah regarding the past, then the Shevuah does not take effect at all. So you can understand why lahachi afkarachmana l'Shevuos edus miklal Shevuos bitui. That's why the Torah says Shevuos Eidos, that the Torah has to especially say the halacha of Shevuos Eidos, even though the Torah already says the halacha of Shevuos Bitui, because Shevuos Eidos, when a person says about Shevuos Eidos that I do not know this Eidos for you, and he lied about this is not a kind of a Shevuah that the person could say for the future. The person cannot say such a Shevuah for the future, I will know Eidos for you. He doesn't know if he will know Eidos in the future or not. So that's not a kind of a Shevuah that he can make. So according to Shmuel, Shevuos Eidos is a kind of Shevuah that was never included in the carbon of Shevuos Bitui. So the Torah has to write separately the din of Shevuos Eidos. And by Shevuos Eidos, I forgot to mention before, by Shevuos Eidos, there are specific conditions when a person is chayiv in the Shevuos Eidos. It has to be a person that's roy to say Eidos, not someone that's possible. He has to say the Eidos in this Shevuah. This Shevuah has to be made in Bezdin, not just privately. Only then will he be chayiv. And it's a different category. It does not go into the category of Shevuos Bitui, because it's not a Shevuah that could be l'sha'avar and lahaba. But according to Rav, you don't have this condition. Regarding any Shevuos Bitui, that a person says on the past, he'll be chayiv for it, even if it's a kind of Shevuah that cannot be made for the for the future. So the lamai hilchase afkarachmana. So what's the halachia that the Torah is taking Shevuos Eidos out of the category of the regular Shevuos Bitui? Even when a person says a Shevuah that I don't know Eidos for you, even though this is not a kind of a Shevuah that you can make for the future that I will know Eidos for you, that's not in your control, but nevertheless, you should be chayiv just for the Shevuah, right? Like that, Shevuah is bitui. Which means even if he's not a person that's roy to say Eidos, even if he didn't say it in Bezdin, you should be chayiv for it being a Shevuah is bitui. So Amru Rabbana Kamei Abaye, when this question was asked, so the students in front of Abaye answered that you're right, that really he's chayiv for the Shevuos Bitui. When the Torah says he's chayiv for Shevuos Eidos, l'chayuvi alei tarti. It's because the Torah is coming to say that he's chayiv twice for Shevuos Eidos, and in addition to Shevuos Bitui, when it was done in Bezdin. So he'll be chayiv now for both. Amalohu, but Abaye answered the students and said, no, that's not the right answer. Tarti loy matzisu amrisu. You cannot say that it would be chayiv twice, because the Tanya we learned in the Braise, in the pasuk where it speaks about the carbon that's brought, the carbon oil that's brought for one of the cases is the Shevuos Bitui. It says la'achas, that if one v'hoya ki yeshem la'achas meila, which means la'achas atam v'chayvoi, he's chayiv one carbon for the Shevuos Bitui, v'yatam v'chayv shtayim. But he's not chayiv twice, so you can't say that a person that makes a shvuah that I don't know Eidos for you, and he makes that shvuah in the Bezdin, and he's right to say the Eidos, that I'll be chayiv twice, once for shvuah's bitui and also for shvuah's Eidos. So says the Gemara Abaye, so Abaye that didn't agree to this answer that the student said in front of him, so Lamai Hilchasa Avke Rachmana. So why is the Torah saying this new din of shvuah's Eidos, if he's anyways should be chayiv according to Rav for shvuah's bitui? And says the Gemara, look at the Tanya, it's like what it says here in this Braise. B'kula nema, by all of the cases, by carbon oil v'yored, it says v'nelam, that the person forgot. He did aveda b'sheigig. This is talking about the tumah that we learned earlier in the Masechta, or also about a shvuah that it was done b'sheigig, and then he brings this carbon of oil v'yored. But v'kan loy nema v'nelam, when the Torah says the halach of shvuah eidos, a person that swears I don't know testimony for you, the person has to bring the carbon l'chayev al amezid k'sheigig. He has to bring a carbon for this, whether he said this and he forgot, he didn't realize that he does know eidos about this fact, or even if it was deliberate, he still has to bring a carbon. That's why the Torah is writing Shevuos Eidos in a separate category to be mechadish this point that you chayiv on mezid k'sheigig. Yeah, by Shevuos Bitui it's only b'sheigig, right? B'mezid he's chayiv malchus, but by Shevuos Eidos, whether it's b'mezid or b'sheigig, there's no malchus. It's always a carbon. So Rabbanan la Abaye, but Rabbanan asked the students asked Abaye, Maybe I should say b'mezid mechayev chada. If he made the Shevuos Eidos and it was b'mezid that he lied about this, that he doesn't know Eidos, and he does, so then maybe he's chayiv only once. He's chayiv one korban. But b'shaygig, if it was done b'shaygig, so now chayiv tarti. Maybe then you will be chayiv twice for it being a Shevuos Eidos that was a lie, and also Shevuos Bitoy. That any kind of Shevuah that a person says something regarding the past, that's a lie. So Abai said to them, but lav hainu the amri, lahu, the bachat, isn't this what I already told you? The achas, it's that you only chayiv once. Achas at the mechayva, v'yat the mechayva shtayim, that he can't be chayiv twice, only once. So v'i b'mezid, mi iketarti, and if it was b'mezid, would the person be chayiv twice? So just like by mezid, the person will not be chayiv twice. By shegig as well, the person will not be chayiv twice. This is all Abai's pshat. Why? What we're learning out over here from this that the Torah says Shevuos ha Eidos. Rava says that the reason why the person will not be chayiv twice in this case is mishum dahava dava shebechlal v'yatza lidim b'dava chadosh. Because this is the Shevuos Eidos is something that was really included in the case of Shevuos Bitoy. It's no different than any other Shevuos Bitoy, according to Rav's opinion. And now the Torah is v'yatza lidim b'davar achodash. It comes and it takes it out of the category of a regular Shevuos Bitoy, and it says that there's a new halacha regarding this, and therefore ein l'chaboy elo chidushe bilvad. And therefore, what the Torah is coming to say over here is that there's a chiddush regarding this, that you only chayiv once and you're not going to be chayiv a second time. That is what how we know that he's not going to be chayiv twice. And this is a klal. This is one of the Yud Gimel Midrash Torah Nidreshes that we say every morning. Anytime the Torah takes one detail out of a klal, the reason why it's doing it is because now it's separate. You can't say that it should be chayiv twice. Shevuos Eidos has its condition that has to be in Bezdin, and for a person that's roy to say Eidos, and that will be chayiv only once. You can't include the original klal where it came from, because it was taken out of that klal. So you don't need the drasha of that pasuk of achas that Abaye brought to say that you're not chayiv twice. Rashi here says that that drasha of achas, the Abaye Rava will darshan from that something else. If a person makes a shvur that I will not eat, and a person eats different kinds of foods, so you may think that because he ate different kinds of foods, he's chayiv more than once. So from that you learn out from la'achas that he's only chayiv once. But not the drasha that Abaye is saying here. That we have a klal that will only be chayiv once. Okay, but now the Gemara goes back to the point that Abaye is saying here. Abaye does learn out from this word la'achas. And Abaye is saying that from la'achas we see that when a person makes a shvuah regarding testimony, that you would think that he should be chayiv twice for Shevuos Eidos, and also for it being in the category of every shvuah that's a lie. And the la'achas says that he's not chayiv. Says the Gemara, now Miklal, so from this, the Abaye needs this drasha. What do I see from here? The Abaye Savar, that Abaye holds, Isei l'shvuah ba'ilam. That this kind of a shvuah, the Isser of Shevuos Bitoy, really exists. He should be chayiv twice. Elamai, you have the pasuk that's teaching and saying that it'll only be chayiv once. But the question is, based on what Abaye said in the beginning of this whole discussion, that's not true, because Abaye himself said, that Rav will agree that if a person makes a shvuah, that I know an edus for you, and then it turns out that the person does not know this edus, the potter, then in such a case, this person will be potter from the Shevuos Bitoy, because this is a kind of shvuah that you cannot say this for the future, that I will not know the edus for you. So in such a case, the person can't make the shvuah to say the lav. The person cannot make the shvuah that I will not know edus for you, regarding the future, that is. Okay, so Abaye himself said before that in this kind of case, Rav will be meideh that the person is potter. There's no Shevuos Bitoy in such a case b'chlal. Why? Because even according to Rav, it has to be heim v'lav. And in this case, this shvuah is not beheim v'lav. So therefore, Rav will be made over here that there's no Shevuos Eidos at all. So how is Abaye saying now that this is a kind of shvuah that you could be chayav for shvuas eidos, and you could be chayav for shvuas bitui, and you need a special pasuk of achas to come and say that he's only chayav once. But Abaye said before in the beginning that this is a case where Rav is maide that it's not included in shvuas bitui at all. So the Gemara says, Abaye me'ahi. Either we have to say that Abaye that is, had charata from what he said before, and that's one answer, or one of these statements here wasn't Abaye, it was Rav Papa that said it, and therefore there's no contradiction. Taisus here says that Rav Papa was a Talmud of Abaye and Rava, so sometimes when Rav Papa said things, the students thought they didn't know if it was Abaye that was saying it or Rav Papa was saying his own point. So therefore one of these things was really Rav Papa saying it from himself and not in the name of Abaye.